Hi, good evening, and welcome to my daily live session on various topics from my toolkit for execution excellence. My name is Dinakar. I am the founder of Samuthana and the inventor of DoHow, a methodology for achieving challenging goals and amazing outcomes while acquiring leadership and management skills. So that's the fundamental activity which we do. DoHow is a Socratic method, works mainly in the affective domain of learning, and is fun because it's gamified. So that's what we do to help teams achieve challenging goals and amazing outcomes. And while they're doing that, to acquire the leadership and management skills. Leadership being all about the goals and what goal to choose, and the management being the system, the way you basically go along the path and then achieve the goal. And for that, if need be, the PDCA cycles to be done regularly and reviews being done. That's what management is all about, to get the efficiency, doing the thing right, and the leadership is all about doing the right thing. So with that very brief introduction, in case you want to know more about what we do, please do visit dinakarmurthy.com or write a mail to me. Dinakar@samutana.com is my email ID. So with that very brief introduction, let me directly jump on to today's topic. And before I do, I please request your excuse today. I got delayed a little. I was getting ready for a client visit which I've got tomorrow, and after that I've got another DoHow session in the afternoon. So tomorrow is quite a hectic day. So I was wanting to I wanted to get prepared before I really do this, and after that I can basically run through the entire thing once more. So sorry for the delay. So let me start now. First is I spoke about the sourcing strategy, and on Monday I spoke about the introduction to sourcing strategy, which was mainly to really create segmentation of the various components and materials being sourced into uh, in four different dimensions. First is the source, where it is located, local, domestic, or imported. Then what kind of a class it is, A, B, or C, and after that whether it is coming in the bulky condition. What is the condition of the supply? Is it bulky? Bulky means where you can't really move around easily. It's quite heavy, so you need to really locate in one place, and that place is the final location. Like for example, the bed of a machine tool. No, it's not. You can't really be storing it in the stores and after that shifting it to the shop. Ideal situation is that it directly goes to the place where it will be assembled. Or, for example, the entire structure of a control panel. So it doesn't really make any sense in keeping it in stores. So that's a bulky one. Arranged ones are ones which come in trays, which come in trolleys, which are definitely part of the modern lean manufacturing setup. And the jumbled ones are the ones which would really get packed without really any arrangement, like nuts, screws, bolts, fasteners typically, O-rings also many a times are not really arranged, but some of them are arranged. Some oil seals are very much arranged, and unfortunately there are a lot of cases where I've seen that the vendor supplies in a very good arranged condition, and the internal handling gets it totally mixed up. So the damages happen internally and not with the vendor, and that's a very interesting situation to be in. That is as far as the condition is concerned. Then the third one was the fourth one was whether it is off the shelf, standard manufactured, or made to order item. So these four dimensions classified into smaller groups, and after that, for each of these segments, try to do a strategy. Of course, if you calculate it, you come to about 81 segments, but it won't be 81 in all the companies. It will be about 14 to 15 segments, and for 14 to 15 segments, we definitely need to deep dive to do a specific strategy for that particular segment. That was the first day on Monday, and then I spoke about the application where it can be done for getting people to understand the current reality and come on the same page, so that the common understanding can be established, both of the reality and of the goal. And for doing problem solving, to really understand where the problem is occurring. Typically the problem with a not so effective sourcing strategy would be twofold. One is your inventory levels will not be under control, and second is on time and full delivery will go for a toss. These are the main two impacts. Of course, cost is something which is always the case, because cost doesn't always depend on the sourcing strategy. It's a combination of multiple things. Cost, of course, has an impact, but the sourcing strategy will not really impact cost so much as the inventory and the on time and full deliveries. One is to make sure that the material is there, the other one is to make sure that the material is supplied on time and in full. So that's a place where we can use this sourcing strategy and segments for problem solving. And finally, when you are progressing on a stable mode, cruising, there it is important to really look at these segments to really break the inertia and start achieving some development. So these are the three areas where you can apply. And yesterday I spoke about the cons. I spent a lot of time on the total cost of ownership, which is more a mindset issue than really any numbers. That's because number you can't really calculate total cost of ownership using any kind of calculation, because there are multiple factors which contribute to that. It's important that the managers and the executives and the purchasing officers have their ability to use their gut feel. Normally people are really competent, they know what total cost of ownership means, and they should be having that liberty to use. And then I was a little critical about the L1, L2, L3, which is sometimes taken as the gospel, and sometimes it's taken as the only one to decide a vendor, and that's something which is not very what should I say, very effective and efficient. Of course it can possibly make sure that you have got some documents available to save somebody's whatever it is, and but that doesn't really help in the business at all. So it is important that there is some amount of leeway given to the gut feel of the purchaser, and that's what I was talking about, total cost of ownership, apart from using L1, L2, L3. I'm not even today I want to repeat again, I'm not advocating to not use L1, L2, L3. It's absolutely mandatory because cost is extremely important, but at the same time to give that leeway for the purchasing manager, for the purchaser to really be in a position to use his gut feel, and based on the gut feel, looking at the total cost of ownership, try to take a decision considering the L1, L2, L3, so that the decision is clear. What was the reason, what was the rationale to take the decision, can also be documented, there's no problem at all. And that rationale comes from the total cost of ownership, which normally is a gut feel. There is not much explanation to be done. Numbers cannot be used for justifying that. So that was what I spoke yesterday, and I very briefly touched upon the regular analysis of all the items being sourced. And for that, the mitigation is to ensure that you are updating the planning parameters and the entire business parameters in the ERP regularly. If you do that, then there is no problem in analyzing. Today the computing speed is phenomenal, so you can just download it and then be done with it. Just now I created a folder, I don't, not that kind of activity, but I created a folder which was shared, and it's available for everybody. It just happens fantastically well nowadays. And earlier days it used to take a long time even to get the sharing rights. So a lot of things have improved, so that's possible. Today, my topic would be on the pros and positives. Let me be brief. First is, if you have a sourcing strategy, the way I've explained, your inventory levels would be optimum. Why would be optimum? Because your sourcing strategy is going to look at the entire supply chain. It's not about getting the lowest cost, which is definitely one of the objectives, or getting the best quality, or getting it on time, but look at it in a holistic picture. Therefore, the inventory levels would get optimized, and optimum storage space and locations. Like I said, when you have got bulky items to be sourced, there absolutely no sense in getting it 1 day in advance, 2 days in advance, or 1 week in advance to get some kind of a safety. The only way that can happen is moment you have got your place where you're going to store it, finally before it is shipped out of your factory free, then you call up the vendor and tell him now you can ship it, and from there it comes to your factory maybe in the next 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, so that there is no concept of storing it somewhere, and that's something which has to be totally avoided. Therefore the storage space gets optimized. And the next most important thing is that when you look at this sourcing strategy and each segment which I am speaking about, at each level you need to streamline the flow. That means, see, any business, any activity which you do, that's the whole principle of lean manufacturing, the whole principle of theory of constraints, or even the principle of the automated supply assembly lines, like what was done by Henry Ford, to automate the car assembly line. All have the same objective of ensuring that there is a streamlined flow. Imagine if the flow were streamlined and it was flowing like a stream without any obstruction in between. Of course, when you look at a river, there are dams on the way, but at the dam the water gets collected, and after once the water is fully collected, it flows out. It doesn't get totally accumulated, and the amount of level that you want the water to be collected there is something which you have defined. That's the buffer. So you can't really go beyond that. And when there is a flow, that water gets collected and it stays there, and after that the surplus water keeps flowing. It won't really stay stagnant anywhere at all. And that's the concept of a flow. If that kind of a flow can be established in the business, then it will really be magical, because your overall cost will be very less. I remember somebody explaining to me, and or maybe I read it in some book, Japanese, when they started their manufacturing, I believe they didn't have any money. So the idea was to work like a vegetable vendor, who would Go in the morning, buy the material, buy the vegetables in city market or wherever, whichever market is your city's market, and from there the vegetable vendor or the one who sells on the road goes around the localities, would come back and then put it on his cart and push the cart, sell the items, sell the vegetables. By the end of the day, he's got his money. So he didn't really invest anything at all. There is no concept of inventory. Whatever money he got, he invested it in the morning and got it back in the evening. So the concept of inventory is not there at all, and that's something which is something to be understood. I only buy if I get material, if I get money from my customer. So the idea was to really look at how do you ensure that you go with zero inventory, zero investment for inventory, zero working capital. How would you do that? You get the order from the customer, and once you got the order from the customer, then start buying the materials and give the advance to the vendors if need be. Otherwise, look for a credit, 1 day credit or half a day credit or 1 week credit, so that once your job is done, because your lead time also is quick, then you can pay the vendors. So you are really not spending any money at all, zero working capital. And that kind of a model is something which is possible if you really work out your sourcing strategy in a very effective way. That's the first, that's the third advantage. The last advantage, I want to take a little longer time. This is something which is very interesting. You go to any company, whether it is a very, very sophisticated and fantastically matured value stream, or something which is not that matured, the material handling is always a big pain. It's really a huge challenge for everybody. And materials are counted, whether it is screws or nuts or bolts or o-rings or oil seals or shafts or spindles or ball bearings or bearings, bushes, whatever it is. There is always some kind of a counting happening, manual counting happening. That's the biggest disaster, because manually the component should be handled only for the sake of assembly or processing. My ideal situation is the vendor who manufactured that component would have to manufacture it and then put it into a package, and then that package gets opened and the material will be touched by the hand only when it is going to be processed or when it will be assembled. Till that time, nobody will touch the component. And that's something which is going to be possible only if there is a tremendous amount of thought given to the primary, secondary and tertiary packing and how it will be optimized. What is primary packing? Primary packing is the first packaging which you do on any material to prevent it from getting rusted, to prevent it from getting damaged. And the secondary packing would be to combine some of these things and put it into a bigger box so that you are in a position to handle it better. That would be the secondary packaging. And the tertiary packaging would be the packaging where you possibly put it into a bigger container, bigger box for the purpose of transport. Typically, primary packaging is to avoid the rust, avoid the damages, to ensure that the basic qualities and the functionalities and the aesthetics of the particular component are maintained and they are not damaged. And the secondary packaging is to ease the transport within a locality, within a particular organization. It's not about transporting beyond boundaries, beyond the company walls. And tertiary packaging generally is for transporting beyond the company walls. These are the three types of packaging. You can see it's there in all the any item which you look at. There will always be the three types of packaging. For example, if you look at Tetra Paks, you would have a Tetra Pak with a Tetra Pak is packed. Tetra Pak would be where you have got your Maza and all the appies and various real drinks, whatever fruit juices, etc. That Tetra Pak is the primary packaging because it is packaging the juice. That is the one which is holding the juice in place. Then you got a secondary pack which would be the carton, where in one carton there will be 24, I think, normally, 4 into 6 or sometimes 8 into 4, 3, 24 small Tetra Paks will be in one carton. That would be the secondary packaging. And the tertiary packaging would be a set of cartons put onto a pallet, which would be the tertiary packaging. That is the way the packaging is done. So tertiary packaging is used for transporting the Tetra Pak boxes from the manufacturing factory to the warehouse, and to store in the warehouse. You only handle with the pallet. You don't touch the juice at all. You look at that as an example. Or if you look at the medicines, maybe the strip where the tablets are stored would be the primary packing, and the cardboard carton where the 10 strips are put together, and that would be the secondary packaging. And the tertiary packaging would be a carton where maybe 20 such boxes are put, which are which is the unit for transporting. So whenever you look at the sourcing strategy, it is absolutely mandatory for each of these items. For each of the item, if you're talking about 15,000, 16,000 items, generally when you put them into families, maybe you would be having not more than 800, 600 families. So for each of these 600 families, one needs to carefully define and design the primary, secondary and tertiary packaging concept, so that there is no handling damage first of all, and second is you are able to count and give fast. See, one of the fundamental reasons why the MRP fails is because the volumes don't match. And why don't the volumes match? It's not because people are dumb. It's basically because you are putting in a process. The entire system is based on a process which intrinsically is, what should I say, designed to fail. It's a DTF, you can say, designed to fail planning. That doesn't really work, because you are trying to get the fellow, not only one person, multiple people to continuously keep counting, which doesn't really work. And unless you eliminate the counting fully and make sure that the person who is getting the item is getting in a packed conditions, only at the point of use will the primary packing be removed. If that kind of a concept can be done, then the MRP will be outstanding, materials requirement planning will be outstanding, ERP will work much better, and you will have a fantastic life, because you don't need to really keep running pillar to post to understand where the materials are lost, which is quite normal in many companies, even the best of the best companies, my dear ladies and gentlemen. And that has been my experience, and with that I feel that that primary, the secondary and tertiary packing will be optimized if you use this sourcing strategy. So again, once just to recap, optimum inventory levels would be a positive impact, optimum storage space and locations, primary, secondary and tertiary packaging will be optimized, and the flow will be streamlined if you use the sourcing strategy of defining these four different ways of classifying the items, and create the segments. For each of the segment, work on a strategy. Thanks a lot for watching, and for those of you who are in India, have a nice evening. For those of you outside India, have a great day. And let me remind you, tomorrow is the day of live session with live dialogue with Dinakar. That is the time when I want you to tell me your experiences with sourcing. So I'm going to publish this link in YouTube, LinkedIn and Facebook. It's very simple. You need to really click on dinakarmurthy.com/live at 8:30 in the evening tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be on time, 8:30. And you can participate and share your comments, share your experiences in my live session. Otherwise, I'll talk about something, because tomorrow is a long day. I would have gone to a client, and after that I got a do-off session, then I got another interesting, what should I say, a discussion in the evening. So after that I have got this live session. So I'll share something which I learned tomorrow, which would be useful to everyone. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you tomorrow. Goodbye.